The court ordered Mira Vale to wash the Moonblood banner because blood looked better on servant hands. But when her palms touched the stain, the banner bled out the names of soldiers the kingdom had erased. Then it showed the Alpha King's stolen mate mark. The Moonblood banner lay across the black marble floor of the Victory Hall, silver cloth dragged from the royal shrine and spread beneath 100 watching eyes. It was longer than a coffin line, heavy with old moon thread, and embroidered with the black wolf of House Varr. For 3 generations, every Alpha King had carried it into war. Every victory had been sworn beneath it. Every dead soldier's name, the court claimed, had been honored in its folds. Now a dark stain marked the wolf's throat. Fresh. Red. Impossible. The banner had been sealed for 10 years. Mira knelt before it in a plain servant dress, her wrists bare, her dark hair falling forward as 2 guards forced a silver basin beside her. The water inside the basin was moon-cold and clear. Too clear. It reflected not her face, but the throne behind her. Alpha King Kaelen Varr sat beneath banners of bone-white silk, his black armor polished for the victory rite, his expression carved from winter stone. He was feared from the northern passes to the red border valleys, a king who had won 3 wars before 32 and smiled for none of them. His eyes were pale gold, wolf-bright, and restless, as if something inside him paced too close to the ribs. Beside his throne stood Lady Sorrel Thorn, beautiful, golden, untouched. Her white victory gown shimmered with a soft aura that made nobles lower their heads without knowing why. They called it the blessing of the fallen. They said the dead soldiers had accepted her as future Luna because she carried triumph around her like sunlight after war. Mira had scrubbed the floors beneath Sorrel's feet for 6 years. She knew sunlight did not smell like old graves. Lord Maevron Thorn, Sorrel's uncle and head of the royal council, struck his black cane once against the floor. The cracked wolf tooth carved at its head flashed dull red. "Mira Vale," he said, as if her name were dirt on his tongue. "You were seen alone near the banner shrine before dawn. I was ordered to bring ash lamps to the shrine stairs." "By whom?" Mira looked toward the servants' line. No one raised a hand. They had all learned the oldest law of palace survival. A servant without witnesses had already lost. Maevran's mouth thinned. "You stained the Moonblood banner on the morning of the king's betrothal rite. You will wash what you dishonored before the court." A murmur passed through the nobles. Dishonored, not accused. Already judged. Mira placed her hands on her knees to keep them from shaking. "I did not touch the banner." Sorrel's soft voice drifted from beside the throne. "No one wants to harm you, Mira. If you confess, mercy may still find you." Mira looked at her. Sorrel's golden aura brightened faintly, warm enough that several nobles sighed as if comforted. Mira felt only cold. There were moments when cruelty wore a blade. Sorrel wore concern. Kaelen's gaze moved from the stain to Mira's face. "Why were you at the shrine before dawn?" His voice was low. Not kind. Not cruel. A command wrapped in restraint. Mira swallowed. The ash lamps near the west stair had gone out. "Who noticed?" "I did." Maevron's cane tapped once. "Convenient." Mira looked down. She could have told them the truth beneath the truth, that she had woken before dawn with the taste of iron in her mouth and the sound of wolves crying inside the walls, that she had followed the sound to the shrine because the Moonblood banner was whispering names no living courtier seemed to hear. But servants who heard banners speak were not questioned. They were burned. The last war-witness bloodline had been recorded dead after the Red Border War. Mira had never understood why her mother's name vanished from every servant ledger before that year. So Mira said only, "I saw darkness where there should have been light." Kaelen's wolf-bright eyes went still. Not cold. Listening. The hall noticed. Sorrel noticed faster. She placed a pale hand on the king's arm. "My lord, the rite cannot begin while the banner remains stained." At her touch, Kaelen stiffened. For one breath, pain crossed his chest. Mira saw it because she was kneeling low enough to see what pride tried to hide. Beneath the edge of his armor, near the heart, a faint red line pulsed once and vanished. A mark, or a wound. Kaelen's hand closed over the arm of his throne. Myvran's cane tapped again. Wash. The guards forced Mira's hands into the basin. The water bit like winter knives. Then they pressed her palms to the stained banner. The first touch should have soaked the blood away. Instead, the cloth bled upward. Mira gasped as red seeped through the silver threads and climbed her fingers. Not wet like ordinary blood. Warm. Living. The stain at the wolf's throat widened, spreading into lines that moved too deliberately to be a spill. Letters formed beneath her palms. One name, then another, then 10. The court fell silent. Mira tried to pull back, but the banner held her. Names continued bleeding across the cloth in thin red light. Arikven, Doran Blackridge, Sovayed Thorn, Renna Wolfmarked. The dead. The old war dead. Soldiers whose names had never been carved in the victory hall. Kaelen rose from his throne. Sirella's golden aura flickered. Black threads moved inside it like worms under honey. With every dead name the banner returned, her borrowed light thinned. Myvran's face went pale, but only for a moment. The cracked wolf tooth on his cane pulsed red in the same rhythm as the stain. Blood trickery, he said, but he did not look at Mira. He looked at the names. Mira's hands burned. The banner drank from her skin and gave back names. Hundreds of them, hidden in the moon thread, sealed under the royal wolf, waiting for the one bloodline that still knew how to wash truth from war cloth. A voice rose from the banner. Not one voice. Many. War. Witness blood. Mira Froze. Kaelen stepped down from the dais. His pale gold eyes were fixed not on the dead names, but on her bloody hands. What did it call you? Mira could not answer, because beneath the spreading names, a new shape had begun to bleed through the banner. Not a soldier's name, not a battle record, or matemark, the same red shape that had pulsed beneath Kaelen's armor. The court saw it. Sorel stepped back. Her golden aura turned black at the edges. The Moonblood banner whispered again. Stolen from the true bond, paid for with the unburied dead. Beneath Kaelen's armor, the same mark answered in blood. The stolen mate mark answered beneath the Alpha King's armor. Not much. One thin red line, bright enough to cut through the black edge of his breastplate, pulsed once over his heart and vanished beneath the metal as if dragged back by force. But the court had seen it. So had Sorel. Her hand flew to the center of her own chest, where no mark showed through the white victory gown. The golden aura around her flickered harder now, thinning with every dead name still bleeding across the Moonblood banner. At its edges, the gold turned bruised and smoky, as if rot had finally found light. Myvran struck his cane against the marble. Cover the banner. No guard moved. He looked at them sharply. Now, 2 soldiers stepped forward, not from loyalty, but habit. Mira tried to pull her hands away before they could fold the cloth over the names, but the banner held her palms flat. The blood in the threads warmed until it felt less like blood and more like breath. Kaelen's voice stopped the guards halfway. Touch it and lose the hand. The hall froze. The guards backed away at once. Myvran turned slowly toward the throne dais. Your Majesty, the banner is under council protection. It is under my house. It is a relic of war. It is bleeding in my hall. Kaelen descended the final step. The nobles parted for him with the instinctive fear given to kings and wounded wolves. He stopped near Mira, close enough that she could see the strain around his mouth. The mark beneath his armor pulsed again. This time he nearly flinched. Mira felt the answering pain in her own palms. The banner knew him, or the mark did. Sorel stepped down after him, careful and graceful, though her aura kept failing in small black threads. My lord, this is dangerous. Whatever she has awakened may be attacking you through the banner. Mira looked up at her. Sorel's face was beautiful, with fear arranged as concern. Kaelen did not look away from Mira. Is it attacking me? Mira should have said she did not know. That would have been safe. But the names beneath her hands were still moving, and each one carried the weight of a soldier who had died without being remembered. Safety felt obscene before them. No, she said, it is answering you. A murmur swept the court. My Franz Kane pulsed again. Red, red, red. Sama rhythm as the mark. Kaelen saw Mira notice. His eyes shifted to the cracked wolf tooth at the cane's head. Myvran lowered it behind his robe. Too late. The banner bled another line. Not a name this time. Aples. Red border ford. Kaelen's expression sharpened. That battlefield is sealed from royal record. Myvran's face hardened. Because the survivors were traitors. The banner convulsed under Mira's hands. Blood spread faster. Names came with wounds attached now. Not only letters, but flashes of memory. Wolves running beneath black rain, silver arrows from behind, royal banners turned the wrong direction, soldiers howling for orders that never came. Mira saw men and women wearing House Varr marks die while someone above them ordered the retreat sealed. Her breath broke. Kaelen crouched beside her. The court inhaled as one. An Alpha King did not kneel beside a servant girl. He did not lower himself to the floor while his chosen bride stood watching. But Kaelen did. Not fully kneeling, not yielding, close enough that his shadow covered Mira's bloody hands. What do you see? He asked. His voice had changed. Not softer, more dangerous, because it trusted less. Mira swallowed against the iron taste in her mouth. A ford, rain, wolves trapped between the river and the ridge. Kaelen went very still. The Red Border War, she whispered. They were not killed by the enemy. A sound broke from somewhere in the court. An old soldier near the back gripped the wall. Myvran raised his cane. Enough. The wolf tooth at its head cracked open. Inside it glowed a clot of red-black light. The banner recoiled as if struck. Mira cried out as pain snapped through her wrists. The dead names blurred. The basin beside her overturned, spilling moon water across the marble. Wherever it touched the banner, more names rose. Hundreds. Then a phrase. Washed, but not forgotten. Sorel stumbled. Her golden aura tore open at the shoulder, and inside it Mira saw faces. Not spirits, not fully. Echoes. Dead soldiers' last courage stitched together into light and wrapped around Sorel like a victory cloak. Mira stared, sickened. You are wearing them. Sorel's eyes flashed. Be silent. The command struck with a force that made nearby servants bow their heads. Mira did not. The banner tightened beneath her palms, holding her upright from the floor. Kaelen turned to Sorelli. For the first time that night, his voice carried something colder than suspicion. What is she wearing? Sorel's face trembled, just enough to show the court that beauty had effort beneath it. A blessing. The soldiers gave their courage to the throne. The future Luna carries it for the kingdom. Her mouth hardened. Dead courage serves better than living doubt. The hall went silent. Even some of Sorel's own allies looked at her as if they had heard the grave speak through perfume. Myvran stepped beside her, as tradition requires. The banner bled black at the word tradition. Mira looked down. Another memory opened. Women in grey gowns stood in a river after battle, washing blood from war banners beneath moonlight. They did not scrub the names away. They preserved them. Each washer spoke every dead soldier's name so the banner could carry truth back to the throne. War witness women. Her mother was among them. Mira knew her face from a single half-burned pendant hidden under her mattress. Mira Vale. Kaelen's breath changed at the name, as if some buried report had finally found its title. Her mother knelt in the river with blood up to her elbows and whispered, "If the crown betrays its wolves, the cloth must remember." Then Myvran appeared in the memory, younger, with the same cane. Behind him stood a girl in white, Sorel, much younger, but already beautiful. Alina looked up and saw them. Fear entered her face. The memory tore away before Mira could see more. Mira gasped. Maivran was watching her now. Not the names. Here. You should have died with that line, he said softly. The hall heard. Kaelen Varr. The air around him changed so quickly that every candle bent away. What line? Maivran's mouth closed. The banner answered. War. Witness bloodline. Last daughter unrecorded. Mira's bloody hands began to shake. Kaelen looked down at her, and for a heartbeat the burning mark beneath his armor pulsed in time with the blood between her fingers. Sorel's aura turned darker. Maivran lifted the cracked wolf-tooth cane toward Mira's chest. If the witness lives, he said, voice low enough only those nearest heard, the dead will ask who sold them. Kaelen stepped between the cane and Mira, but the banner moved first. The moonblood banner rose from the floor like a silver beast waking from slaughter. It wrapped around Mira's shoulders, still bleeding names, and across its center, the stolen mate mark burned brighter than the royal wolf. The dead had chosen their mouth. The dead had chosen their mouth. The words did not come from Mira. They came through her. The moonblood banner wrapped around her shoulders like a war cloak soaked in judgment, its silver cloth dragging across the marble, its edges bleeding names that did not fall to the floor but rose into the air in thin red light. The court backed away as those names circled the victory hall, filling the space where songs of triumph usually belonged. Mira tried to breathe. The banner breathed first. 100 dead wolves inhaled through her lungs. For one terrifying heartbeat, she was no longer only herself. She felt the weight of soaked river stones under her knees. She felt cold moon water up to her elbows. She felt women's hands beside hers, scrubbing blood from banners not to erase it, but to wake what the cloth had seen. War witness blood. Last daughter unrecorded. Kaelen stood between her and Maivran's cane, his black armor catching the red glow of every name. The mark beneath his breastplate burned again, brighter now, and a low sound moved through the hall. Not from the nobles, from the Alpha King's wolf. It was trapped somewhere inside him, snarling beneath bone and crown. Sorel heard it and stiffened. The black threads in her golden aura twisted tighter around her shoulders, trying to stitch the light back into beauty. But every name the banner released thinned that stolen glow. Faces flickered inside its soldiers, young and old, some scarred, some barely more than boys, all carrying the same final expression. Not glory, betrayal. Maivran recovered before anyone else. That was what made him dangerous. Not that he felt no fear, but that fear sharpened him. He raised his cane slowly, no longer aiming at Mira, but at the floating names. This is treasonous blood, magic. The girl is not speaking for the dead. She is using the dead to accuse the throne. The word throne sent a shiver through the court. Kaelen turned his head slightly. Careful. Maivran bowed, but only with his neck. Majesty. If you let a servant wrapped in grave-fed battlefield sorcery name royal crimes before witnesses, every border lord who lost sons in the Red War will demand blood by dawn. Perhaps they should. The hall went silent. Maivran's eyes narrowed. Mira looked at Kaelen despite the pain burning through her hands. The Alpha King's face remained hard, but something had changed in him. He was not defending her innocence. Not yet. He was defending the right of the dead to speak. That mattered more. Sorel stepped forward, her white gown whispering over the floor. My king, grief makes cruel theater. The Red Border War broke many houses. If she has inherited some ruined war witch gift, perhaps she does not even understand what she is doing. Mira's fingers tightened on the banner. War witch. There it was. The cleaner word for burning. The court liked clean words for ugly fires. Sorel's expression softened into public mercy. Let me take the banner from her. I carry the fallen's blessing. If the dead are restless, I can quiet them. The banner recoiled, so violently that Mira nearly fell. Kaelen's hand moved as if to catch her, then stopped a breath away from her arm. The space between his fingers and her sleeve felt louder than touch. He remembered the blood, the banner, the watching court. Or perhaps he feared what touching her might reveal. Mira saw the restraint. It hurt, though she did not want it to. The moon blood banner answered Sorel instead. Its center darkened, and another memory bled open across the cloth. A battlefield under black rain. A young soldier crawling toward the fallen banner, one hand pressed to the wound in his stomach. Sorel stood over him in a white cloak, untouched by mud. Maivran beside her, cane planted in the soaked earth. The soldier looked up. "We held the ford. Tell the king we held." Sereleknelt. For an instant, she looked almost kind. Then she pressed her palm over the soldier's mouth. Golden light flowed out of him. Not from his blood. From the last brave thing inside him. The will that had kept him fighting after the order abandoned him. Sorel inhaled it like perfume. The soldier's eyes emptied. Maivran touched the cracked wolf-tooth cane to the banner. Red-black light pulsed into the cloth, sealing the soldier's name beneath the royal wolf. The memory vanished. A gasp broke from the court. Sorel's aura flickered almost completely black before she forced gold over it again. "That is not truth," she said. "That is grief made monstrous." Mira's voice came out rough, threaded with other voices. "His name." No one moved. Mira looked down at the banner, and the letters burned beneath her hand. Edran Vale. The name struck Kaelen like a blade. His face changed. Edran Vale died, carrying my message through the West Pass. Maivran's jaw tightened. He died a traitor at Red Border Ford. "No," Kaelen said. "He was my runner." Mira felt the banner pulse. More names pressed upward, eager and aching. Too many. If she let them all speak at once, they would tear through her throat and leave nothing but witness behind. She swallowed blood. "Not all tonight," she whispered. The banner stilled. Barely. Kaelen heard. So did Maivran. The council lord smiled faintly. "She cannot control it." "No," Mira said, lifting her eyes to him. "I am refusing to let them become another weapon." Something moved across Kaelen's face. Respect, sharp and unwanted. Sorel saw it and went cold. She reached to her throat and unclasped the victory necklace she had worn all evening. A chain of tiny gold wolf teeth, each one glowing faintly with borrowed light. "Then I will end the danger." Maivran's eyes flashed. "Sorel, too late." She threw the necklace onto the banner. Gold light exploded. The dead names screamed. Mira dropped to her knees as the necklace burned into the cloth, pinning the bleeding mate mark beneath a ring of false victory fire. Kaelen staggered, one hand flying to his chest. Beneath his armor, the stolen mark flared, and then began to fade, dragged towards Sorel's blackening aura. The court cried out. Sorel stood in the center of that golden storm, beautiful and terrible, her smile trembling at the edges. "The throne chose me," she said. "The dead chose me. The mark will remember that if she stops poisoning it." Mira's vision blurred. The banner tightened around her like hands holding her upright. A woman's voice whispered through the cloth. Her mother's. "Mira Vale. A witness does not scrub until the stain is gone, child. She washes until the truth remains." Mira pressed her bleeding palms over the trapped mate mark. The gold necklace hissed. Kaelen looked at her through pain, his pale eyes gone wolf-bright. "Mira," he said, and it was the first time her name sounded like something more than a servant being summoned. The mark beneath her hand split open. Inside it, hidden under Sorel's stolen light, was not only Kaelen's bond. It was a wound shaped like Mira's name, and it was still bleeding, and it was still bleeding. The wound shaped like Mira's name opened beneath her palms, and the victory hall vanished. For one breath, she was no longer kneeling on black marble before nobles who wanted her burned. She stood beneath a red moon on a battlefield, drowned in rain, the moon blood banner lying torn across the mud. Around her, wolves in House Varr armor lay dying with their faces turned toward the ridge. They were waiting for orders. No orders came. Mira looked down and saw her hands were not her own. They were older, stronger, ringed with scars from years of cold water and blood-soaked cloth. Her mother's hands. Mira Vale knelt beside the fallen banner, pressing both palms to the black wolf embroidered at its center. Her grey dress was soaked red to the elbows. Around her, other war witness women whispered names while soldiers died. "Hold them," Alina said. One woman beside her sobbed. The ridge betrayed them. Then the cloth must remember the ridge. A horn sounded in the distance. Not enemy. Royal. Alina lifted her head. Across the battlefield, Lord Mavren Thorn rode under a black council cloak. Beside him stood Sorel, younger and pale in a white dress covered by a gold-threaded mantle. She looked too clean for war, too clean for death. Her eyes fixed not on the bodies, but on the banner. Mavren dismounted and walked through the mud as if bodies were stones. "You will surrender the cloth," he said. Alina rose slowly. "The banner goes to the king. The king will receive what the council decides he can survive." Mira felt her mother's anger move through the memory. His wolves were sold at Red Border Ford. Mavran's cane struck the mud. His wolves died holding the border. Their retreat order was sealed. Their runners were murdered. Their names were removed before the battle ended. Sorel stepped closer. Her gaze moved to the dying soldiers, and something hungry stirred behind her beauty. "They are still brave," she whispered. Alina looked at her sharply. "Do not touch them." Sorel smiled. Then she reached for the nearest dying soldier and placed 2 fingers against his brow. Gold light pulled from his mouth in a thin stream. His eyes emptied, but his body kept breathing for 3 more terrible seconds, as if courage had been the last thing holding him human. Alina lunged. Mavren's cane flashed red. The memory broke into pain. Mira slammed back into the victory hall with a gasp, the banner still wrapped around her shoulders, the stolen mate mark still split open beneath her hands. Kaelen was closer now. Too close. His face had gone bloodless beneath the bronze of firelight, and his pale gold eyes were fixed on the banner, as if he had seen the battlefield too. "You saw it," Mira whispered. He did not answer at once. The mark beneath his armor burned in the shape of her name, and the pain of it pulled a sharp breath from him. Enough to know Mavran lied. The court broke into whispers. Mavran struck his cane hard enough to crack the marble. The king is under blood influence. Kaelen turned on him. The hall went still. Mavran did not step back. He was too old in power to fear ordinary anger, and too guilty to survive truth spoken calmly. "Your Majesty," he said, "you are wounded. The banner has tied itself to your damaged mate mark. Anything you saw came through the girl's blood, through her dead mother's treason, through a relic corrupted by grief." Mira's hands tightened. Dead mother's treason. The words tried to become a knife. The banner would have answered with 100 names if she had let it. She felt them pressing at her throat, desperate to speak, furious at being called corruption. But Alina's voice remained under the cloth. "Wash until the truth remains. Not until rage does." Mira forced herself to breathe. Sorel stepped forward again, though the borrowed aura around her had thinned to a dark gold haze. "My king, look at what she has done to you. Your mark is bleeding. Your wolf is agitated. The court is afraid. Let me quiet the banner before it tears you apart." Kaelen looked at her. Something old and wounded crossed his face. Something Mira did not understand yet. Perhaps he had once wanted to believe Sorel's brightness was a cure. Perhaps he had worn her golden aura like a bandage over a wound he did not know had been stolen. "What did you take from Edron Vale?" he asked. Sorel's mouth parted. "Only a little. Enough." Mavran spoke for her. "She took nothing. The fallen offered their final courage to strengthen the lunar line. Edron was not fallen when she touched him." The words cut clean through the hall. The old soldier near the back, the one who had gripped the wall earlier, dropped to one knee. "I was at the West Ridge," he said hoarsely. Mavran's eyes snapped to him. The soldier's face was grey with age and terror, but he did not lower his head. We heard the Ford wolves howling after the horns called retreat. We were told they had turned traitor, but the river ran red for 3 days. The banner lifted one bloody edge toward him. A name bled across it. Torrin Ash. The old soldier began to weep. Mira understood then. The banner was not only naming the dead, it was calling the living who had been forced to carry false silence. Maivran understood too. His expression went flat. "Enough witnesses," he said. The cracked wolf tooth on his cane split wider, and a pulse of red-black light shot toward Torrin Ash. Kaelen moved with impossible speed. His sword was not drawn, yet his wolf shadow struck the floor before the cane light reached the old soldier. A black shape flashed from behind the king, huge and half-starved, with the same bleeding mark burning over its chest. The cane light shattered against it. Kaelen staggered. Mira saw his wolf shadow clearly for the first time. It was powerful, but thin at the ribs. Its fur was black as storm ash. Around its chest, where the mate mark should have blazed whole, a ring of gold teeth had been driven into the flesh like a collar turned inward. Sorel's victory necklace. The banner hissed. Sorel's hand flew to her throat, now bare. Kaelen looked at her, slowly. "What is around my wolf?" Sorel's beauty cracked. Maivran raised his cane again. "Royal guards, seize the servant. Seize Torrin Ash. Seal the hall." No one moved quickly enough. The Moonblood banner pulled free from Mira's shoulders and unfurled above the floor, stretching from wall to wall like a silver battlefield. Names burned across it in rows, not hundreds now, thousands. Then the banner split down the center, revealing a black thread sewn beneath the royal wolf. It ran from the old war-dead names to Sorel's darkened aura, from Sorel's aura to Maivran's cane, from Maivran's cane to the golden teeth buried in Kaelen's wolf shadow, and from the broken mate mark back to Mira's bloody hands. The court saw the whole chain. Sorel whispered, "No." Mira's mother's voice rose from the banner, clear enough for every noble to hear. The mark was not stolen in one night. The black thread tightened. Kaelen's wolf shadow snarled and dropped to one knee. Alina Vale's voice finished. It was fed for years. The words settled over the victory hall like ash after battle. No one moved. Not the nobles who had spent the evening pretending horror belonged only to servants. Not the guards who had raised spears for council command and lowered them before dead names. Not Sorel, whose golden aura now flickered like a dying lantern with black rot crawling through its flame. Only Kaelen's wolf shadow moved. It knelt beside the unfurled Moonblood banner, one massive foreleg braced against the marble, teeth bared against pain. The golden wolf teeth buried around its chest pulled tighter with every pulse from Sorel's aura. Each tooth glowed with stolen courage, and each glow dragged the broken mate mark farther from Kaelen's heart. Mira felt it through her palms. The pain was not only his. The mark had two ends, one buried under Kaelen's armor, one bleeding through her hands. She had not chosen him. She did not even know him beyond throne, rumor, and the hard line of his voice. Yet the wound recognized her with a terrifying intimacy, as if some hidden part of her life had been bleeding toward his all along. Maivran saw her realize it. His eyes sharpened. "Now you see the danger," he said to the court. "The servant's blood has tied itself to the king's wolf. If we do not cut her from the banner, she will drag his majesty into a grave-made bond." Mira almost laughed. It came out as a broken breath. "You are afraid of the bond?" Maivran's cane pulls thread. "I am afraid of treason wearing grief as a crown." "No," Mira said, and the banner warmed around her hands. "You are afraid the dead. Remember your voice." The names across the cloth brightened. Maivran struck his cane down. A red-black ring spread across the floor, circling Mira, Kaelen, and the banner. Every name it touched dimmed. Every dimmed name pulled a gasp from the invisible dead. Mira felt them flinch through her blood. Kaelen's sword came free with a low metallic whisper. "Break that circle." Maivran bowed his head slightly. I cannot, Majesty. Cannot? If the witness, Cloth, continues bleeding, border houses will revolt before dawn. The council sealed this right for precisely such contamination. Kaelen's eyes turned cold. You sealed a right to silence my banner? To protect your reign? Kaelen stepped toward him. The golden teeth in his wolf shadow clenched. Pain hit him so sharply that he stopped. Sorel moved at once, her voice soft with practiced devotion. My lord, please. You see what happens when you resist the blessing. Your wolf weakens because it fights what the fallen gave us. Mira looked at her. Gave? The word scraped her throat. The banner answered with another memory. Not a battlefield this time. A chamber beneath the royal shrine. Dead soldiers' names hung from the ceiling on strips of red cloth, each tied to a small golden tooth. Maivran stood before them, younger but no less severe. Sorel knelt in a white gown, her hands resting on the moon-blood banner. You must not think of them as stolen, Maivran told her. Think of them as directed. Sorel looked afraid then, younger. Not innocent, but not yet the woman who could call dead courage useful. What if the king's wolf rejects me? Then we feed the mark until it forgets the difference. Sorel's face lifted. And the true bond. Maivran touched his cane to the banner. A buried mark writhed beneath the cloth. Buried things are loyal if kept hungry. The memory vanished. The court stared at Sorel. Her beauty had become brittle. For a moment, Mira saw what Sorel truly feared, not guilt, not the dead, but losing the golden light that had made everyone bow before she earned anything of her own. Sorel's chin rose. I was chosen to keep the king strong. Kaelen's voice was quiet. You were chosen to keep me blind. She flinched. Mira's mother spoke from the banner again. Witness must wash the feeding thread. The black thread beneath the royal wolf pulsed. Mira looked down at her bloody hands. How? The banner did not answer with words. The silver cloth shifted, revealing the basin overturned beside her. Moon water had spilled across the marble and turned red wherever it touched a dead name. But inside the basin remained one thin pool, clear as winter glass. Mira understood and wished she did not. She had to wash the banner again. Not to erase, to separate. The feeding thread from the true mark, the stolen courage from the soldiers' names. Sorel's borrowed aura from Kaelen's wolf. Mira reached for the basin. Maivran's circle tightened. The red-black light bit into her wrists. Kaelen moved again, but Mira spoke before he could spend more pain trying to protect her. Do not. His eyes cut to hers. The command should have sounded absurd from a servant on her knees. But the banner carried it with the weight of a battlefield horn. Mira swallowed. If you fight the chain, it pulls the teeth deeper. Kaelen's jaw locked. He looked furious. Not at her. At the truth. What do you need? He asked. The court heard it. Alpha King Kaelen Varr asking a kneeling servant what she needed. Mira looked at the basin. Water. The old soldier Toranash rose unsteadily from the back of the hall. Moon. Water from the west shrine, he said. The kind used after battle. Maivran's face went flat. Sit down. Torrin did not. One by one, other older wolves stood from the edges of the hall. Men and women with scars beneath court sleeves. Servants whose fathers had never returned. Guards who had heard too many wrong songs sung after Red Border Ford. A gray-haired woman stepped forward. There are jars in the shrine. Another said, I know the key. The court began to divide. Nodbirank. By memory. Sorel saw it and panicked. Her aura flared black gold, and the stolen courage inside it screamed. The golden teeth in Kaelen's wolf shadow pulled hard. Kaelen dropped to one knee. Mira reached for the mate mark on the banner. The moment her bloody fingers touched it, the mark opened. Inside it, she saw a younger Kaelen on the night of the victory feast, wounded from war, half-conscious beneath moon banners. Sorel stood beside him in bridal white while Maivran pressed the golden wolf-tooth necklace over the mark on his chest. Kaelen's wolf had tried to rise. Maevran's cane pinned its shadow. Sorel whispered, "Forgive me." Then she leaned down and kissed the burning mark. Not with love, with hunger. The mark tore, half into the banner, half into Kaelen's chest. A third piece, bright and bleeding, vanished into the dark before Maevran could catch it. Mira gasped as the vision broke. The banner whispered against her skin. Witness, child hidden, third piece carried by blood. Mira looked down at her own palms. The wound shaped like her name bled brighter. Kaelen saw it. So did Sorel. Her face twisted with hatred. "No," she whispered. "She cannot have carried it all this time." Maevran lifted his cane toward Mira's heart. "Then we remove it now." Kaelen's wolf shadow surged despite the pain. But Mira pressed both hands flat against the moonblood banner and spoke before the cane could fall. "Bring the water." The dead names rose around her like a wall. And from the western shrine beyond the hall, every sealed jar of moon water shattered at once. The western shrine answered before the court did. Far beyond the victory hall, behind sealed doors and old wolf prayers, every jar of moon water shattered at once. The sound rolled through the palace like glass breaking under a full moon. A breath later, silver water flooded beneath the doors, down the corridor, across the black marble threshold, and into the hall. It did not spread like ordinary water. It came in a narrow stream, bright as melted moonlight, moving with purpose toward the moonblood banner. The nobles scrambled back. Maevran cursed under his breath and struck his cane against the floor, trying to raise the red-black circle higher. But the moon water touched the edge of his magic and hissed. Steam rose. The circle thinned. Mira kept both hands pressed to the banner. Her palms had stopped feeling like hands. They were wounds now, open and burning, tied to every dead name in the cloth. The banner's silver threads pulsed beneath her fingers. The stolen mate mark throbbed in its center, half hidden beneath Sorel's false victory fire. Kaelen remained on one knee, his sword planted point down in the marble. His wolf shadow crouched behind him with golden teeth still driven into its chest. Every pull from Sorel's aura made his shoulders tighten. He did not make a sound. That made Mira angrier than a cry would have. The moon water reached the basin. The overturned silver bowl righted itself without a hand touching it. Water filled it to the rim. Alina Vale's voice whispered from the banner, low and steady. "Begin with the names. Never the stain." Mira looked at the thousands of red letters bleeding across the cloth. "There are too many." "Then begin with the one they fear most." Her gaze moved to the name nearest the trapped mate mark, Mira Vale. The dead runner, the soldier Kaelen had sent through the West Pass. The first proof Maevran had tried to bury beneath the word traitor. Mira dipped her bloody fingers into the moon water. The water turned red around her skin, but did not cloud. It held the blood like memory, clear and terrible. She touched Edryn's name. The hall vanished into rain. Edryn Vale stood again in the red border ford, not as a full ghost, but as a shape made from moon water and bloodlight. He was young, mud-streaked, one hand pressed to his stomach. He looked at Kaelen first. "My king," he said. Kaelen's face tightened as if the title had cut him. "You carried my message," Kaelen said. "I did." "To whom?" Edryn looked toward Maevran. The court followed his gaze. "To the council riders at the ridge. I told them the ford wolves still held. I told them the enemy line was breaking. I told them if reinforcements came before moonrise, Red Border would stand." Kaelen's voice dropped. "And?" Edryn's ghost lifted one shaking hand and pointed at Maevran's cane. Lord Maevran broke the message seal and called it false. Then he ordered the ridge horns to sound retreat. A roar moved through the hall. Not from Kaelen, from every old soldier who had lived long enough to hear the dead confirm what their bones had known. Maevran's eyes hardened. Her dead man's grief is not evidence. Mira dipped her hand again. The moon water rose from the basin in a thin ribbon and wrapped around Edryn's name. The letters brightened, then sank into the banner, not erased, but set deeper, cleanly preserved. Edryn closed his eyes. For the first time, peace touched his face. "Washed," the banner whispered, "not forgotten." The golden light around Sorel dimmed. One tooth in the necklace buried in Kaelen's wolf shadow cracked. Kaelen gasped. Mira looked at him sharply. His wolf shadow lifted its head an inch. Sorel stepped back as if the crack had opened inside her own ribs. "Stop." Mira turned to the next name. Werewolf marked. A woman rose from the banner, broad-shouldered, bleeding from silver arrows in her back. "Name the hand," Alina whispered. Mira touched the name with moon water. Renna spoke before Myvran could silence her. "We were not killed in battle. We were held there." The retreat horns sounded while the enemy turned. We howled for the ridge. No answer came. "Who sealed your names?" Mira asked. Renna looked at Sorel. The chosen bride's borrowed aura flickered black. "She came after," Renna said. With gold light on her hands, she said courage wasted in corpses should serve the living court. Sorel's face went white. "I was a girl," she whispered. Renna's ghost did not soften. "So were the youngest wolves you emptied." The court's horror shifted. It no longer looked only at Myvran. It looked at Sorel. The woman who had stood beside the Alpha King, glowing with stolen bravery, suddenly seemed smaller without it. Sorel felt that loss and hated Mira for it. "You think names make you righteous," she said. "The kingdom needed hope after Red Border. Kaelen needed victory to hold the throne. I became what the people needed." Kaelen looked at her. "You became what Myvran built." Her eyes flashed. "And you accepted it." The words struck. Kaelen did not deny them. That was the worst part. The court had crowned Sorel's golden aura because Kaelen had allowed it to stand beside him. He had been wounded, deceived, and chained through the mark, but the kingdom had seen his silence as approval. Mira saw the burden settle on him. She also saw him not step away from it. "I accepted a lie," he said, "because it wore the shape of survival." The banner stilled. Then the stolen mate mark pulsed under Mira's hands. The third piece inside her blood answered. Pain shot up her arms so violently she nearly collapsed. Kaelen moved, but stopped himself just short of grabbing her. The space between them burned again, brutal and careful. "Mira," he said. This time her name carried fear. Not for the court, for her. The moon water in the basin began to spin. A red shape rose from it, not fully a mark, not yet a bond, but a torn fragment shaped like a crescent claw. Mira knew it before anyone spoke. The third piece, the one Sorel and Myvran had never found. Her mother had hidden it, not in cloth, in blood. Alina Vale's voice trembled through the banner. "I carried it from the shrine after they tore the king's mark. I could not return it before they found me, so I gave it to the only life they would not think to search." Mira's breath broke. "Me." The crescent claw of bloodlight floated between Mira and Kaelen. Sorel stared at it with naked hatred. Myvran's cane flared red-black. "Destroy it." The command was not for the guards. It was for the cane. The cracked wolf tooth opened like an eye and released a spear of dark light toward the floating mark. Kaelen surged up despite the chain. But Mira was closer. She lifted both bloody hands and caught the third piece against her chest. The hall went white with pain. Kaelen's wolf shadow howled. The golden teeth around its chest cracked all at once. And inside Mira's heartbeat, a wolf she had never heard before opened its eyes. The wolf inside Mira's heartbeat did not howl. It listened. That frightened her more. A howl would have been wild, simple, something born from pain and answered by instinct. This was different. This presence opened its eyes inside her blood with the terrible patience of something that had waited years beneath silence. Mira felt it look through her ribs, through her palms, through the third piece of the stolen mate mark burning against her chest. The victory hall had gone white around her, then red, then silver. When the light cleared, Mira was still kneeling over the moon blood banner, both hands pressed against her heart, the crescent claw fragment glowing beneath her fingers. Blood ran between them, but it did not fall to the floor. It flowed backward into the banner, drawing a thin red path from Mira to Kaelen's crouched wolf shadow. The golden teeth buried in his wolf's chest had cracked. Not fallen. Cracked. Kaelen stood with one hand braced against his sword, breathing like every breath had to pass through iron. His pale gold eyes had gone almost white at the center, and his wolf shadow stared at Mira with an expression no beast should have been able to carry. Recognition. Sorel saw it and made a sound too small for the woman she pretended to be. No. The word broke from her like a child losing a crown. The borrowed aura around her shoulders collapsed inward, gold turning black at the roots. Without the dead courage feeding it cleanly, the light no longer looked holy. It looked stitched, patched, made from bright things that had not belonged to her. Mivran recovered faster. He always did. "Seize her," he commanded. This time several guards moved. Fear had returned to usefulness. They did not understand the third piece, the banner, the dead, or the wounded wolf shadow of their king. They understood a servant girl holding bloodlight over her heart while the court trembled. They understood orders. Kaelen lifted his sword. But before he could strike, Mira spoke. Wait. The word was not loud. Yet the moonblood banner carried it across the hall like a war horn. The guard stopped. Mira looked down at the crescent mark burning under her hands. It wanted to move toward Kaelen. She felt that pull with a force that made her teeth ache. The third piece had lived hidden in her blood, but it was not hers to keep. It belonged to the broken bond between the Alpha King and the true mate mark. And still, Alina's voice whispered through the banner, "Do not return what has not been witnessed." Mira understood the danger. If she simply gave the piece back, Mivran would twist the court again. He would claim blood sorcery. Sorel would call it forced bonding. The dead soldiers would become spectacle, not truth. Kaelen's mark might heal while the names remained buried. The old theft would survive under a new miracle. Mira lifted her eyes to Kaelen. "I cannot give it back yet." The hall inhaled. Kaelen did not move. Pain flashed across his face, but not anger. Why? Because it was hidden with the dead. His gaze shifted to the banner. He understood before most of them did. The mate mark had not been stolen separately from the war crimes. It had been fed by them. Sorel's false blessing, Mavran's cane, the erased soldiers, Kaelen's weakening wolf, Mira's hidden bloodline, all of it was one chain. To heal the mark without naming the dead would be another burial. Sorel stepped forward, shaking with fury now that fear had stripped her sweetness bare. "You hear her? She admits it. She holds the king's mark hostage." Mira's fingers tightened around the crescent light. Sorel's eyes followed the movement. Hunger returned to her face. Not for Kaelen. For the aura she was losing. "You were nothing this morning," Sorel said. "You carried ashes. You knelt in corridors. You lowered your eyes when I passed. I remember. And now you speak as if dead men made you holy." "No," Mira said. "They made you bright." The words struck harder because they were quiet. A few nobles looked away from Sorel. That was when she broke. The chosen bride tore one of the remaining gold wolf teeth from her necklace chain and drove it into her own palm. Black gold light burst up her arm. Faces appeared inside her aura. Not floating now, but screaming, dragged close to the surface. "I carried them," she cried. "I carried their fear so this kingdom could look victorious. I stood beside a king whose wolf would not answer me and made the court believe he was whole." Kaelen's voice was cold. "You stole from corpses." Sorel's eyes filled with tears, but they were furious tears. "I used what war left behind." The old soldier, Torrin Ash, spoke from the edge of the hall. "War left us grief. You made jewelry." The banner warmed under Mira's hands. More moon water streamed across the floor, drawn from broken shrine jars. It surrounded Sorel's feet in a silver ring, the dead names reflected in it, circling her like wolves. Mivran saw the circle and raised his cane. "Sorel, step out." She tried. The moon water held. Not her ankles, her aura. The stolen courage clung to the water. recognizing battle washing older than council law. Black gold light peeled from Sorel's shoulders in thin strips. With every strip, a soldier's face appeared in the air, gasped once, and dissolved into a name on the banner. Sorel screamed. Mira almost looked away. Then the wolf inside her heartbeat moved. Not forward, deeper. It pressed against her grief, her pity, her anger, and waited to see which one she would obey. Mira forced herself to watch. A witness did not only watch what was easy to condemn. Sorel collapsed to one knee, clutching her chest. "Stop it." Mira looked at the moon water. "I don't know how." "Yes, you do," Mavran said. His voice had changed. Soft now, deadly. He lowered the cracked wolf-tooth cane and pointed it not at Mira, but at the third piece glowing under her hands. "Return the mark to the king, and the water will quiet. Keep it, and the dead will strip her to bone." Kaelen's sword angled toward him. "You do not bargain with her." Mavran smiled faintly. "I bargain with necessity. The same thing kings learn after their first battlefield." Mira felt the third piece pulse. Kaelen's wolf shadow strained toward it. Sorel's stolen aura tore apart in the moon water. The dead pressed close, demanding names, demanding release. The court watched, hungry for an answer that would hurt someone else. Mira saw the trap. If she returned the piece now, Sorel might live, but the dead would remain half-washed. If she refused, Sorel would become a victim before the court, and Mavran would turn pity into another weapon. So Mira did the one thing he had not asked. She placed the crescent mark against the moonblood banner instead of her chest. The cloth drank the light. Kaelen gasped. Mira nearly fell forward as the third piece opened a path through the banner, not to Sorel, not to Kaelen, but beneath the royal wolf embroidered at its center. There, hidden under 3 layers of moonthread, lay a second seam. A black seam, sewn shut with hair. Mira knew the color before the banner named it. Alina Vale's hair. Her mother had sealed something inside the banner the night she died. Mavran lunished. Kaelen caught him by the throat before the cane could rise. The court exploded in shouts. The Alpha King's voice cut through them all. "No one touches the witness." Mira pulled the black seam open. Inside the moonblood banner, wrapped in her mother's hair and dried blood, lay a small strip of torn royal command parchment. The ink was faded. The seal was not. Housethorn. Mira read the first line, and every dead name on the banner flared. By council order, the red border wolves are to be abandoned before moonrise. Sorel stopped screaming. Mavran bent still in Kaelen's grip. Mira read the second line. Their courage is to be harvested for the future lunar candidate. The stolen aura around Sorel died completely, and in the silence that followed, the final line bled fresh beneath Mira's hands. The king must never know his true mate survived. The words hung above the moonblood banner in fresh red ink, brighter than any crown seal, crueler than any blade. For a moment, no one breathed. Then Kaelen's hand tightened around Mavran's throat. The old council lord's cane slipped against the marble but did not fall. Even half strangled, Mavran kept one hand locked around the cracked wolf-tooth head, as if the cane were the last bone holding his power upright. Kaelen's voice came low. "Read it again." Mira's hands shook over the banner. She did not want to. Not because the words were unclear, because they had changed the shape of her life in front of everyone. The mark inside her blood, her mother's death, Sorel's stolen light, Kaelen's weakening wolf. Years of servant halls and lowered eyes. None of it had been accident. None of it had been random cruelty. She had not merely carried the third piece of a stolen bond. She had been hidden from the king who was never supposed to know she lived. The banner pulsed under her palms, so she read the line again. The king must never know his true mate survived. The victory hall broke into chaos. Nobles shouted. Some denied the parchment before understanding it. Some called for Mavran's arrest. Others called for the banner to be burned. A few looked at Mira as though she had become more dangerous than the lie itself. Kaelen did not look at them. He looked at Mira. The stolen mate mark beneath his armor burned so bright now that red light cut through the seams of his breastplate. His wolf shadow stood behind him, still wounded, still ringed by cracked golden teeth, but its eyes were fixed on Mira with a pain too old for a first meeting. Sorel was on her knees in the moon water, stripped of her golden aura. Without the stolen courage, she looked younger and smaller, but not innocent. Her beauty remained, its power did not. She stared at the parchment as if it had betrayed her. "You knew," Kaelen said. Sorila lifted her face. Tears streaked her cheeks, but anger lived beneath them. "I knew what I was told. That she survived?" Sorel's mouth trembled. "That if she reached you, everything would collapse." "What would collapse?" "My place," she snapped. The honesty cut the room quieter than a confession. Sorel pressed a hand to her bare throat, where the victory necklace had once shone. "Do you know what it is to be raised as almost enough? To be told the king needs you, the court needs you, the fallen chose you, but only if you glow brighter than every other woman in the room." Mira looked at her coldly. "So you wore dead soldiers?" Sorel flinched, then hardened. "I wore what Maivran gave me." Toranash spoke from the back. "And when it screamed?" Sorel did not answer. Kaelen released Maivran only to throw him down at the foot of the banner. The old lord hit the marble hard, breath breaking from him. His cane clattered near Mira's knee, the cracked wolf tooth still pulsing faintly. Mira reached for it. Kaelen's voice stopped her. "Do not touch that." The command was instinct, protective, yes, but still command. Mira looked up at him. The whole hall watched the space between them sharpen. "I am the witness," she said. Kaelen's jaw clenched. For one breath, his king's pride rose. The old habit of rule, of deciding what danger belonged in whose hands. Then his gaze dropped to the banner, to the parchment sewn in her mother's hair, to the dead names waiting beneath her bleeding palms. He stepped back. Not far. Enough. Mira picked up the cane. The wolf tooth at its head was warm and wet, though no blood touched it. Inside the crack, something moved red-black, knotted, alive with stolen orders. The banner hissed. Alina Vale's voice whispered, "Break the tooth," and the first feeding opens. Mira's fingers tightened. Maivran laughed from the floor, rough and ugly. "Go on, break it. Let the court hear every voice at once. Let their sons accuse them. Let their fathers name them cowards. You think truth arrives clean, witness child? It arrives with teeth." Mira looked at the thousands of names. He was not wrong. That was the worst of him. If every dead soldier spoke at once, the hall would not become justice. It would become slaughter. Grief would leap from house to house. Blame would find blood before understanding could rise. Kaelen seemed to understand the same thing. His voice softened by 1 degree. Mira. Her name again. Not servant. Not witness. Mira. The mark in the banner answered. So did the wound in her blood. She did not look at him. If she did, the bond might become louder than the dead, and she could not allow that yet. "Not all at once," she whispered. The moonblood banner stilled. The dead listened. Mira set the cane on the banner, beside Edrin Vale's washed name. "We begin with the order." The cloth drank the cane's shadow. The cracked wolf tooth split wider, and a memory rose above the hall. Maivran stood in the council chamber 10 years earlier, holding the Red Border Command. Around him stood 3 lords, 2 generals, and Sorel's father. They spoke of losses as numbers, of soldiers as necessary weight, of Kaelen as a young king too loyal to his wolves to do what strategy required. Then Maivran said, "If the king will not spend them, we will." The vision shifted. Sorel, young and frightened, watched from behind a curtain as the first golden tooth was filled with dying courage. The court saw. The names saw. Kaelen saw. When the memory faded, Maivran's cane was no longer black. It was bone white, stripped of shadow. Mira's hands shook harder. Only 1 tooth had been opened. Only one, and already she felt hollowed. Kaelen stepped nearer, stopping before his shadow touched her. You cannot carry all of this tonight. Mira looked at him then. You carried a stolen wound for 10 years. I did not know. I know. That was not absolution. It was understanding. The mate mark between them pulsed with painful light. Sorrel saw it and made a broken sound. Do not look at her like that. Kaelen did not turn. Like what? Like she was always there. Mira felt the words strike something tender and unwanted. Kaelen's face tightened. He looked away first. Good, Mira thought. Not because she wanted to hurt him, because if he had claimed that feeling too soon, she might have hated him for making her mother's death sound romantic. Maivran pushed himself up on one elbow. The mark means nothing without right. She is still a servant. A war. Relic with blood in her hands. The banner rose behind Mira. Slowly. The dead names brightened one by one, but they did not scream. They stood. Rows of red light became shadowed figures. Soldiers, runners, banner, washers, war witness women in grey gowns, and at their center, Mira Vale. Mira's mother looked exactly as she had in the memory, blood to her elbows, face tired and fierce. She placed one ghostly hand over Mira's hands. Then she faced the court. My daughter is no relic, Alina said. She is the last mouth of the war witness line. Her eyes moved to Kaelen, and she is the true bond you were ordered never to find. The golden teeth around Kaelen's wolf shadow cracked again. This time, one fell. It hit the marble and turned to ash. Sorrel screamed. Maivran lunged for the fallen tooth. Kaelen's sword came down between Maivran's hand and the ash. No more. But the fallen tooth had already opened. From its ashes rose one final memory. A newborn girl wrapped in grey cloth, placed beneath a servant's stare by Alina Vale as soldiers approached. Alina kissed the child's brow and whispered, "Live unrecorded until the banner calls you home." Mira stopped breathing. The moonblood banner wrapped tighter around her shoulders, and every dead soldier in the hall lowered their head to her. Every dead soldier in the hall lowered their head to Mira. Not kneeling, witnessing. The difference struck the victory hall harder than any command. The dead did not bow as subjects. They bent as soldiers, acknowledging the one person left alive who could carry what had been done to them without turning their grief into a blade for someone else's crown. Mira could barely stand beneath it. The moonblood banner held her upright, wrapped around her shoulders, heavy with names and old rain. Her palms throbbed. The crescent piece of the mate mark burned inside her blood. Her mother's ghost stood behind her, one hand hovering near her shoulder but never touching, as if even love would not force what witness required by choice. Kaelen looked at the bowed dead, then at Mira. Something broke across his face, not weakness, not surrender, but the collapse of a lie he had lived inside too long. "She was alive," he said. No one answered. He turned to Maivran. "You knew my true mate survived." Maivran rose slowly from the floor, his fine council robe smeared with ash from the fallen tooth. Without the cane's shadow, he looked older, but not smaller. Some men lost power and became afraid. Maivran lost power and became pure will. "I knew a bloodline survived that could destroy the stability you inherited," he said. "I knew the war. Witness women had already turned grief against the crown once. I knew if that child reached you, every order made at Red Border would bleed open." Kaelen's voice was low. "So you buried her among servants. We spared her." Mira felt the banner shudder. Alina's ghost lifted her head. Maivran looked at Mira with cold contempt. "Do not look at me like I wronged you uniquely, girl. You lived because I allowed an unrecorded child to remain useful instead of dead." Kaelen moved. Mira stepped first. The banner flared around her, stopping the Alpha King with a wall of silver cloth and red names. He stared at her, fury still burning in his eyes. "Do not protect him," he said. "I'm not." "Then move." "No." The court inhaled. Mira felt the danger of that word. Servants did not refuse kings. Witnesses did. Kaelen's jaw tightened, but he did not push past the banner. That mattered. Mira turned to Mivran. You will not die before you answer. Mivran smiled faintly. You think answers prevent war? No, she said, but they decide who begins it lying. The dead soldiers lifted their heads. The Moonblood banner unrolled from Mira's shoulders and spread across the air, wide as a battlefield sky. The dead names formed rows, then ranks, then paths leading toward the black seam her mother had hidden. One by one, more strips of command parchment bled through the cloth. Not all. Mira could feel the pressure of them waiting. Too many for one night. Too many for one throat. She chose the next one carefully. Red border order, she said. The banner answered. A second parchment rose from the cloth and opened before the court. This one bore 3 seals. House Thorn, the council war office, and Sorel's father's house. Mira read it aloud. The surviving courage of the abandoned units is to be preserved for royal morale and future lunar consecration. Sorel made a soft, broken sound. The court turned toward her. Without the stolen aura, she looked less like a chosen bride and more like a woman surrounded by ghosts she had learned not to hear. Kaelen's voice was iron. You knew what they were. Sorel's eyes shone with tears she seemed to hate. I knew they were already dead. Toranash stepped forward from the old soldiers. Some breathed when you touched them. Sorel's mouth trembled. Her silence confessed what pride would not. Mira dipped her fingers into the moon water gathered on the banner's surface and touched the parchment. The ink burned clean, then sank into the cloth beside Edron's name. Washed, the dead whispered, not forgotten. Another golden tooth fell from Kaelen's wolf shadow. Then another. The black wolf behind him rose higher, ribs still thin but eyes clearer. The broken mate mark across its chest pulsed toward Mira, and this time the pull was so strong her knees nearly buckled. Kaelen reached for her. Stopped. His hand hovered in the air. Mira looked at it. The whole court did. He lowered it slowly. Tell me what you need. Not command. Not rescue. Permission to stand near without taking the center from her. Mira breathed through the ache in her chest. When the next tooth falls, Sorel's borrowed courage will break completely. Sorel flinched. Kaelen's expression hardened. Good? No, Mira said. His eyes cut to hers. If it breaks without witness, Mavren will make her the victim of my blood. The court will remember her screaming more than the soldiers she emptied. Kaelen looked at Sorel, then back at Mira. What do you choose? The question struck her. Not because she knew the answer, because no one in that hall had asked her to choose anything all night. They had ordered her to kneel, wash, confess, bleed, carry. Now, the Alpha King asked. The banner warmed. Mira looked at Sorel. You will name the first soldier you took. Sorel levant still. No. Mira said nothing. The dead waited. Mivren hissed. Do not answer her. Sorel looked at him, and something like hatred flickered through her humiliation. He had made her golden, yes. He had also made her dependent on stolen light, praised only while she glowed with other people's final bravery. Her voice came small. I do not remember his name. The hall recoiled. Mira did not. She touched the banner, then learned it. The cloth bled one name beneath Sorel's knees. Edran Vale. Sorel stared at the letters as if they were a sentence passed on her soul. Say it, Mira said. Sorela's lips parted. For a long moment, nothing came. Then, barely above a whisper, Edran Vale. The name struck her aura like a blade. Black gold light tore open across her shoulders. Soldier faces spilled free, gasping, turning into red letters that flew to the banner. Sorel screamed, but the moonwater held her upright until the last borrowed glow had left her skin. When it was done, she collapsed in her white gown, ordinary and shaking. Not dead, not forgiven, named. The remaining golden teeth around Kaelen's wolf shadow cracked apart and fell like burning hail. His wolf rose fully behind him, still scarred where the false necklace had bitten inward. The stolen mate mark flared, half in his chest, half across the banner, and the hidden third piece inside Mira answered with a pain so bright she saw white. Kaelen took one step toward her. This time, Mira did not tell him to stop. He stopped anyway, close enough for heat, far enough for choice. "Mira Vale," he said before the court, voice rough with everything the stolen mark had kept from him. "I will not claim you in the same hall that tried to use you." The mate mark pulsed. The dead soldiers listened. Kaelen turned to the court. "But I name you under crown witness. Last daughter of the war, witness bloodline. No servant chain, no council order, no false lunar rite stands above your testimony." Mavren's face twisted. "Then you choose civil war." Kaelen looked at him. "No," he said. "I choose the dead my crown abandoned." The victory hall shook. The moon-blood banner lifted above Mira and Kaelen, and the broken mate mark finally pulled free of the royal wolf. But before it could return to either of them, Mavren grabbed the last fallen golden tooth from the floor and crushed it in his fist. Blood-black courage exploded through the hall. The dead names screamed, and the sealed doors of the war shrine burst open behind the throne. The sealed doors of the war shrine burst open behind the throne. Cold moonlight flooded the victory hall. Not white, red. It poured down the steps like water mixed with old blood, carrying the smell of iron, wet stone, and battlefield rain. Every candle in the hall bent toward it. Every soldier name on the moonblood banner flared, as if the dead had all turned their faces at once. Mavren stood in the center of the blood-black blast, his fist closed around the crushed golden tooth. His hand was burning. He smiled anyway. "If the dead want witness," he said, "let them all speak." The war shrine answered. 1,000 voices rose. The sound struck the court so hard nobles fell to their knees, clutching their ears. Names, orders, screams, betrayal, dying prayers, broken horns, sealed commands, all of it poured from the shrine at once. The moon-blood banner snapped above Mira like a sail in storm wind. Blood ran from her nose. Her throat opened around voices that were not hers. Kaelen reached for her. This time, he did touch her. Only her shoulder. Only enough to keep her from falling. The mate mark between them blazed so sharply that Sorel cried out from the floor. Kaelen's wolf shadow braced itself behind them, no longer collared, but still scarred. It lowered its head beside Mira as if shielding the witness without silencing her. Mira almost let the dead take her. It would have been easier. Let every name scream. Let every house drown in what it had buried. Let Mavren's last gamble tear the court apart and call it justice. Then Alina Vale stepped from the banner. Her mother's ghost stood before Mira with blood to her elbows and grief in her eyes. "A witness is not a wound left open," Alina said. "A witness is a hand that knows where to press." Mira shook, fighting for breath. "I can't hold them all." "No," Alina said. "You name the first door." Mira looked toward the war shrine. Inside the open doors stood rows of sealed banner poles, each wrapped in silver cloth and black chains. Not one war banner. Dozens. Every campaign the court had polished into song. Every victory washed too clean. Mavren had opened them all to break her. But opening was not the same as witnessing. Mira lifted one bloody hand. Red border first. The moon-blood banner obeyed. Its silver length shot toward the shrine, wrapped around the first chained pole, and tore it from the darkness. The other voices dimmed, not gone, but waiting. The court gasped as the red border war banner dragged itself into the hall, blackened by rain that had stopped 10 years ago. Kaelen's hand tightened once on Mira's shoulder, then released. He stepped beside her, not in front. The red border banner unfurled. Across it, the abandoned dead stood in rows of red light. Mira faced them. "I cannot give all of you peace tonight." The dead listened. "But I can begin." Edrin Vale stepped forward first. Werewolf marked stood beside him. Then the others named and unnamed, their faces no longer empty with betrayal. Torrin Ash lowered himself to both knees, weeping openly now, one fist over his heart. Mira dipped both hands into the moon water flooding around her feet. "Washed," she whispered. The water rose. It passed over the red border banner, not removing blood, but clearing the lies sewn over it. Black thread snapped. False seals burned away. The order parchments Mira had read lifted into the air and multiplied, each copy flying toward a noble house whose seal had touched the betrayal. Men who had looked brave beneath jewels went pale. Women who had smiled beneath victory songs covered their mouths. Sorrel stared at the dead courage leaving her skin and entering the banner where it belonged. She looked emptied, but alive. Ordinary. That was its own punishment. Maivran stuttered back. "No," he said. "If you wash the order clean, the border houses will come for blood." Kaelen's voice cut through the hall. "Then they will come to me first." Maivran looked at him with sudden, vicious hope. "Yes, they will. They will say you were king, your banner flew, your seal ruled. You cannot give the dead justice without putting your own crown on trial." Kaelen went still. The trap was true. Mira felt the court waiting. If Kaelen denied guilt, Maivran's lie survived. If he accepted all guilt, the council would use his honor to destroy him and bury the records again. Kaelen looked at the red border dead, then at Mira. No plea, no command, only choice. He drew his sword and laid it across the Moonblood banner. "Then witness me first," he said. The hall broke into whispers. Kaelen's wolf shadow lowered its head, exposing the scar where the false golden teeth had been buried. "I was deceived," Kaelen said, voice carried, "but deception does not cleanse a crown. My banner abandoned wolves who trusted my house. My court sang victory while their names were sealed. I will answer for what was done under my throne." Mira felt the mate mark pulse. Not with pain now, with recognition. Maivran's face twisted. "Fool." Kaelen looked at him. "King." Then he turned to Mira. "Wash the seal." Mira understood the cost. So did the court. If she washed House Varr's seal from the betrayal, it would not erase blame. It would reveal exactly where Kaelen's responsibility ended and Maivran's order began. It would leave Kaelen accountable, but not falsely damned. Truth, not sacrifice. She placed both bloody palms over the royal seal. Moon water surged. The black wolf of House Varr burned red, then silver. Beneath it appeared Kaelen's true command from 10 years ago. Hold red border, send ridge aid before moonrise. Protect every wolf who still stands. The hall went silent. The dead soldiers lifted their heads. Maivran's body sagged. His lie had lost its king. The banner turned next to the council seal. Mira did not need to speak. The cloth opened, and Maivran's true order bled across the air. Abandon the ford. Harvest final courage. Seal all witnesses. The dead did not scream this time. They judged. The Moonblood banner rose like a silver blade and wrapped around Maivran from shoulder to throat. Red names crossed his robes. Edran, Renna, Savile, Doran, hundreds more. The banner did not kill him. It made him carry what he had buried. Maivran fell to his knees. Kaelen looked to the guards. Lord Maivran Thorn is stripped of council law. He will live under banner witness until every red border name is restored. Then he turned to Sorrel. She flinched. Her voice was barely sound. "Will you kill me?" Mira answered before Kaelen could. "No." Sorrel stared at her. "You will name them," Mira said. "Every courage you wore, every soldier you emptied. You will speak until the banner says the washing is done." Sorrel bowed her head. Not forgiven. Not free. Bound to memory. The red border banner folded itself beside the Moonblood banner. The war shrine doors remained open, but the other banners waited in darkness. For later. For witness done carefully. Mira swayed. Kaelen caught her before she hit the floor. This time, she let him. Only for a breath. The mate mark between them rose from the Moonblood banner, whole at last but unclaimed. It hovered between Mira's bloody hands and Kaelen's scarred chest, red as dawn over battlefields. The court held its breath. Kaelen did not take it. He looked at Mira, his voice low enough that only she and the dead closest to them could hear. "It is yours to answer." Mira's throat tightened. A servant would have been ordered. A false Luna would have stolen. A king worth witnessing waited. She touched the mark with 2 fingers, not accepting, not refusing, naming. No barn hatred, hatred. Hatres, said the let it wait until the witnesses are washed. The mark settled into the banner, glowing softly between their names. Kaelen bowed his head once. Then I wait. Dawn entered the victory hall through the high windows, pale and silver. The dead soldiers faded into the cloth one by one, not erased, but recorded. Alina Vale remained last. She touched Mira's cheek with a hand made of moon water and bloodlight. "You washed until truth remained," she whispered. Then she was gone. Mira stood before the court with the moonblood banner across her shoulders, her hands still red, her back straight, though exhaustion trembled through her bones. Kaelen faced the nobles. From this dawn forward, no victory song will be sung until the war witness line has washed the banner. No dead wolf will be named traitor without witness. No Luna will wear courage stolen from the fallen. Then he stepped aside, leaving Mira at the center. The servant girl they had forced to wash a stain lifted the moonblood banner, and every restored name shone across the silver cloth. Outside, the first bells of dawn rang over Valerith. Not victory bells, witness bells, and beneath the banner, the Alpha King's mate mark waited, alive and unforced, until the last daughter of the war witness bloodline chose whether it deserved to be answered.